Yeah, so in the last couple of days, more than a couple of days, I had the opportunity to do a review for the Friday Lamram teachings. It's all about how to prepare for death and dying. So mainly I prepared in sense of the 9-point death meditation and imagining our death. So I was working on that. I was also processing it myself. So I took myself some time, took it with me into the meditation hall to think about that. And of course, memories came up, how it is when you work on something. And it's like all those memories, I was so surprised that they came up. All those memories have been stored at the bottom of a deep ocean. And like, you know, in 2010 when the oil got spoiled in the Gulf of Mexico, and then apparently lots of it settled down on the depths of the ocean. So I felt like that, and then at one point the oil will come up probably again. And so I remember that in 2004 there was this big earthquake in Asia, in Indonesia, in India, and Thailand, and it was in December as well, around Christmas. And I was at that time on a retreat with a well-known Tibetan teacher. I was very young in the Dharma, just checking out the teaching, checking out different communities and different teachers. And when I heard about the news on December 26, I think I was just overwhelmed with emotions. I could not process that at that time. I could not grasp the amount of people who died, the suffering they are going through. So I felt overwhelmed. I felt distracted. I had to distract myself. I don't know. I didn't know at that time how to work with that. So I thought about something else instead, or did all kinds of things to not to be able to think about it, because I just didn't have the tool. I just didn't know how to process the amount of people. 240,000 at least died, and so many more suffered because having lost all their relatives, their mother, their children. Yeah. So I just gave a talk recently on December 20 about what's the difference between compassion and empathy. And if your compassion is not strong enough, so then you are having this empathetic feeling that are overwhelming you, that is without any reasoning, that is just focused on the suffering of others, on yourself. It's entangled. You're totally entangled with your own emotions. You're stuck in them. Compassion is free of it. Compassion is focused on the needs of others, and it's reasonable. It has a reasonable distance, like a doctor has a distance to her patient, or a psychotherapist has a relative good distance to their clients. So sometimes things just take its time to percolate, to come up to the surface. And for me, the first time when I kind of had a peak of memory was 2012, when we did the Satipatthana Sutra retreat on the 4 mindfulnesses. And there you reflect upon the body, and you reflect upon death and impermanence of the body. And we had access to pictures of some of the dead bodies who died in the tsunami, so you could see the swollen blue-gray bodies. At that time, I could not process it either, and I could not really connect it with my overwhelming feelings I had in 2004. So, over the years, I practiced more on death and impermanence, so I got more and more habituated, and I reached a level where I'm able to face it, where I'm able to connect with it, where I actually can imagine my body decaying, my body being swollen, blue and gray, black. So, and I remember a documentary of some of the survivors of 2004, and there was one man from Germany. He was married with a woman from Indonesia, and his parents were living close by the beach. So when the tsunami came, it happens all in minutes, right? And the sea level rised, and the buildings got all swept away, and the trees, only very stable buildings made by heavy stones could stand the tsunami. So he lost his parents. He was looking for them. After some days, some organizations came into the country and found the dead bodies, made pictures of them, that the same pictures we had access to in 2012 in the retreat, for the retreat. And so he started to look at the pictures, to look at his parents, if he can find them. And he couldn't do that for very long. He started crying, and he said to the camera team, I can't do that. I have to remember my parents being alive, how I have experienced them while they have been alive, healthy and happy. So that's how we could react too if we don't prepare for death, right? We react with stress, we react with fear, and we distract ourselves. So it's actually an example how we are holding on to impermanence. So we are not preparing for death at all. We freak out, we distract ourselves, we waste our precious human life by not practicing the Dharma, by not learning the Dharma. So the meditation instead makes us alert and realizes the preciousness of our human life we have right now. So, and as I stated, I'm now starting to realize the depthness of that meditation. And watching this documentary some time ago about this young man who lost his parents and many other survivors, I learned those people lost their lives within minutes. Really, parents lost their children, children lost their parents, their relatives, and children lost their grandparents. They lost our friends, their friends. Over 240,000 people lost their lives, if not more. They all probably woke up in the morning and thought, I will not die today. But actually we don't know when we will die. And the time of death is very uncertain. So that's part of the 9-point death meditation. Instead we have to think, today I might die because death is certain and the time of death is uncertain. Or like Venerable Jigme said once, today is a good day to die. So when I recalled my memory recently about the 2004 event, and when I recalled back my personal reaction I had at that time, I wanted to put myself down. I was realizing that I was thoughtless, that I was ignorant, but as soon as I realized that I'm putting myself down, that I wasn't compassionate at that time, I stopped myself, because now I I'm more able to look into my mind. And I realized, no, Jampa, at that time I was very young in the Dharma. I was just discovering it, going into it, looking for a teacher. I had not really gone into depths of meditations. And I was young in general, and I was driven by karma. I had all kinds of things going on at that time. So, and I can imagine that many people have maybe found themselves in similar situations, realizing that they have some incapacity, that they judge themselves, not being able to be open and to process things properly. So they continue, I continued, and others might continue too, to distract themselves instead of accepting themselves, and to practice the Dharma, to purify, to create merit, to study, think, and meditate. So in that sense, you can say it takes actually some courage to look into your own mind. It takes courage to accept whatever you find there, but it's absolutely worth it. Only if we face death, if we face our own afflictions, our ignorance, then we can apply the Dharma and start to purify our destructive acts, start to gain merit, to study, to meditate. We will grow out of it. We will start to become the master of our own mind. So let's start the new year, 2016. Let's make a determination to not to run away from our own afflictions, but to be willing to look at them, to look at our own suffering and the suffering of others, and to learn to understand, to overcome them. And we do that step by step, and then finally, year by year, we will become closer to liberation.